이게 방법이 되게 달라요. 엄청 어려워요. Turn yourself into something I've never seen before. So far, when I actually turned this on, she said that there was a statement issued from the court judge named Matthew Brennan, who just actually made a very uncomfortable decision to recognize the bizarre absurdity here. It's really like the Frankenstein mixing two different issues together, combining those different ramifications to assure the narrow margin that would be almost meaninglessly pointless. So many of the right-minded people across the board, they're actually feeling uncomfortable with this type of a disastrous consequence. Because right now we're actually, being told to expect one of the election board member from the Republican Party to reject this ascertainment of election results. No certification approval is likely to come from this election board member from the Republican Party. And this must be very hilarious because Joe Biden, without a doubt, was the winner, whose margin would be greater than 154,000. Even when President Donald Trump in 2016 won this election, his margin was, more or less than 11,000. That means this margin would be almost hilariously laughable in comparison with the one Joe Biden achieved. His successes is so whoppingly great. In a comparative text, this would be difficult to be ignored. If you were really right-minded, how would you look the other way to say no to Joe Biden's clear victory? Because his margin is so wide enough to almost, triple what Joe Biden hadn't done. I mean, what Donald Trump had done before. This is very obvious, right? I don't really need to think about it.
Right back in front of that judge isn't going to go anywhere soon, which is very puzzling given that Trump said his next step was the Supreme Court.
And Ben, you are the lawyer here. The district court is the trier of facts. And this judge said there are no facts here, which sort of limits the possibilities on appeal.
Exactly right, John. I mean, there was a lot of withering language in that opinion, but as a legal matter, the judge saying there is no fact. Trial courts are the trier of fact. That record is what appellate courts, the Third Circuit and the Supreme Court have to work on. This judge saying there's nothing there is really the death knell for the case.
So let's talk about then what the motives in all of this might be. Yes, there are people within Trump world who think this can delay certification. It can't. It won't. This will be certified eventually. So then what, Jessica? There are those who wonder, is the president just raising money here? Is the president just creating some kind of legal political slush fund that he can use after January 20th?
Yeah, I think the theories around his motivation for doing this are flying. I think one of them certainly is to raise money. If you look at the bottom of every fundraising email, it says that a huge portion of your donation is actually going to go to campaign debt, and none of the recounts and none of the lawsuits that the Trump campaign is demanding right now. And I think that the most compelling theory, largely because Trump has been saying this behind the scenes, and even his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, has been saying this, is simply to delay, to cast doubt upon a Biden presidency and make it harder for the transition to happen and make it harder, especially in the early term, to help Biden achieve his goals. If you cast doubt on the legitimacy of a presidency, that president is going to be less effective. And I think that...
So I have to actually, cut it off. The first, the other panel actually says that, there had been a certain recognition from the current judge who's been overviewing the case. There is no legitimate evidence to back up the election fraud claims from Rudy Giuliani. This is blatant conspiracy. Because, if there were to be any reasonable doubt, that would be probable in the realm of jurisprudence. That would be thinkable. But currently, in the absence of evidence, that might build a case against Joe Biden, then this would have gained no traction in our court system. That was really the opinion. So we know if Team Donald Trump wants to bring the case further, then the appellate court and the Third Circuit Court, even Supreme Court, would have sorted out how legitimate these type of arguments could be. But technically, if they were going to run into a stonewall because there would be no sophisticated proofs to corroborate their argument, this would have likely completely unfounded and bogus arguments. And that's what makes the situation pretty much withering, because they were actually losing ground. No matter how desperately Donald Trump is scrambling up his forces to hold on to the nasty theory, chances are not great that he would ever convince any single judge in the system to give him another chance to be heard. That would be very unlikely. And what is really the reason why Donald Trump is actually, constantly receiving donations or political finance from voters who might actually be convinced to his theory? There had been a suspicion that he might actually really want to use this money as his political slush fund after January 20th to literally finance his corrupted business, or even actually plot a scheme against Joe Biden, because all this type of nasty blockages are likely to be seen as impediment to take the sting out of Joe Biden's presidency. Think about it. If this, first-term president would it be met with massive heap of obstacles getting in the way of his presidency, definitely there will be a certain efficiency and a productivity issue. Not many bills are going to be passed because there will be a constant challenge against the legitimacy and the validity of his presidency, and the Congress, especially from the Republican side, would not likely to cooperate with the Democrats. There will be a massive ideological battle and a partisan dispute, and that would consume much of energy. Then Joe Biden is likely to face a deadlock, which would be reminiscent of